I'm a project and program manager at Jacobs, and I'm here today to give you a bit of an overview of a mindset and some skills and techniques that I have found useful in my career. So very happy after the session to have a follow-up discussion. You can reach me on LinkedIn there. So my story is I graduated with a degree in physics, and the reason I put that up there is because I find the scientific approach permeates all of my work in project and program management. And people ask me, what are you? Are you a project controls guy? Are you a project manager? What are you? And I'm kind of a mix of all of that. To be honest, I'm still finding out. And that's why I found it really fascinating to be invited to come along to this conference, thank you Steve, to kind of explore the question about what is our identity, who are we? And I'm hoping that in this presentation we'll cover some of those topics as well. Now, a bit of a tour. We start at the top, tour around. I worked for Logica, then PA Consulting, University of Surrey, member of the British Computer Society. I founded an AI business back in 1999 when it was too early, a business called Aerospace Scientific. We tried to get some AI in space. We actually met Professor Colin Pillinger of the Beagle 2 project. Fascinating times, but too early for the market. But some of those techniques, I believe, are now becoming available more widely, as we heard from Martin's talk yesterday. I worked for Thales Training Simulation. Fantastic time in a business called Praxis High Integrity Systems, where I really kind of cut my teeth on some of the things we're going to talk about this morning. And then I joined CH2M here, now Jacobs. And most recently, I've been doing a lot of work with the APM, helping out with various presentations, and also been fortunate enough to, if I can shamelessly promote myself, get an article in the Project magazine all about AI in project management, project physics, anti-fragility, and most recently language in projects. So it's kind of a melting pot of things going on there. We live in a complex, non-linear world. The world is changing rapidly. It's almost like we're trying to grab the clouds in the picture. Okay, everything is shifting. And masses of data as well, as we heard yesterday from Martin's presentation, and also Mark's, Airbus, and the digital transformation. Lots of data out there, but the real challenge for us as the community is how we get hold of that, and critically, how we overcome the challenge. Right, you recognise that? I am 99% complete. Hands up if you've done that yourself. I certainly have. Come on, we've all done it. Okay, maybe 95%. But the point is, that's our problem, that when we are trying to manage complex projects and programs, is how we can be confident that we are going to deliver on time. Do we even know where we're going? I mean, where is this road headed? That's our problem. So what we really want is trust and confidence. We want to have a great deal of belief in the outcome, and we want to reduce the variance of volatility. We need to give our stakeholders confidence. So I think, as Ian said yesterday from Arcadis, we need to give the sponsors confidence that we are spending their money wisely. Okay? The big problem is, how do we do that? And for me, it was being handed a hospital pass, a kind of a death march project, if you like, one where you think, goodness, how am I going to get out of this? And you're forced to innovate very rapidly. You have to get to grips with the challenge in front of you. And what I want to present here in the next slide is the chart, EVM, great. But I'm not here to talk about earned value management. We know all this stuff, really. For me, the challenge, and this is a particular project that we got on top of, and we got absolute confidence in delivery. For me, the challenge is not really about producing those curves. It's really about the underlying data and how we connect that data with the teams and the people at the heart of delivery. And I think that's a major part of the project controls job, is to bring the whole team alongside, and as well as educating the project manager, also make sure the team are confident in the numbers and the data that they are working with. So this chart looks pretty harmless, but actually lay at the heart of the breakthrough we achieved in this particular project, where we got the whole team feeling safe. That's a kind of weird word to hear, isn't it, in a world of professional world. Why should you feel safe? But actually that's what one of the guys told me years later when I asked him, how did you feel on this piece of work? I felt safe. And the reason he felt safe was because we got this chart together. This chart shows, for a number of work packages spanning a couple of years, the work required to deliver a certain number of requirements from the customer. So the bottom axis shows what the customer gave us. So for example, 250 requirements. Now these are quite fine-grained mathematical requirements. I won't go into that, but the point is we could count what the customer was giving us. And we could then read off from that the effort. So say 100 hours, we had a line of best fit. And so that pushed the whole team and the whole business into the sweet spot of delighting the client, because we could give them great confidence using this kind of data, how long and how much it would cost to give them a software product. Okay, so this is requirements into verified computer code. This is a major high-profile customer. So I got thinking about all this, and yeah, that's cool, that's really good that we can do that, but there's kind of a deeper lesson going on here. And for me, that deeper lesson is that data helps us bound the work. It gives us a really sharp boundary between what is in scope and what is out. Now, I would challenge all of us here to say, are you really confident, hand on heart, that you know exactly what you are working from and what you are producing? Okay? And if you can get that understanding, then you can build a lot of confidence in the work that you've got to do. And you can come up with things such as the milestone trend chart. Have you heard of milestone trend chart? Hands up if you have. Yeah, no, okay. These are fantastic tools. So these help you understand the connection between a promise and the outcome. So if today I promise in a month's time that I will finish a certain activity, and that month comes by and I finish it when I said I would, I have a flat line, the green line. If on the other hand my prediction goes late, the line slopes up, and if my prediction comes in, then the line goes down, like the blue line. I really encourage you to use these because they're a massive kind of aid for communicating responses when something will be available. And furthermore, it encourages you to think about how do I calculate those numbers. Okay, I've got schedules, but schedules have to be based on estimates. Estimates have to be based on data, and the data has to be built up from people. The people, data, trust, all connected. Okay? Counting. So how do we count? How do we count the information that we are working from? So can anyone say why I have put 1 star against activity, 2 star against outputs, and 3 star against inputs? Any ideas? Any volunteers? No? Okay. So the point I'm making here is that when we size a piece of work, we traditionally, and schedule it, we traditionally say, okay, we're going to do this bunch of stuff. We have a set of activities in the schedule against which we do our % complete, get our EV. But I contend that is not good enough. And really we need to go one better and at the least count against the output, something physical. So cubic yards of concrete poured, lines, meters of cabling installed, lines of computer code, pages of design documentation. That is stuff that we produce, that our teams produce. But better still, if you can count against the input, you're onto a winner because you've got a leading indicator. You've got something that lets you see how long something's going to take. It's a piece of information you have before you start. Wow, isn't that great? That's what we need. So, question to you guys. How many sweets in the jar?
5.
Oh, so can you put your hands up, whoever speaks? Sorry. Yep, how many?
5.
Okay, and you? Oh, okay. So, I did the calculation. Now, this is a real experiment I did actually in a real team. It's not the exact same photo. I won the prize because I guessed the right number of sweets. And that was great. I shared it with the team, of course. But the way I calculated it was by going, well, okay, it's the cylinder, pi r squared, this height, so on. I could calculate the volume, count the number of sweets. And so I reckon there's about 400 sweets in that jar. But that doesn't really matter. What really matters is how I worked it out, the model. So when we have a piece of data or a number, that's a magic number, so what? What I really want are the insights that led to that number. I want to know the function, the relationship, okay? So that is more powerful when it then comes to delivering the work, because if, as always happens, the work takes longer than expected, you've got something to go back to and reason about that with your stakeholders. All the schedules I have seen forget to include rework. Okay? They all model the green aspiration, the flow, and they pretend the real world flows beginning to end. I have never worked in a project or program where that was the case. So why, as a community, do we fool ourselves and pretend it's the case? What we really need to do is understand the reality, the backflow, the turbulence, and make sure that we capture that in our schedules, so that our schedules are no longer just A, B, C, D, E, but actually model the fact that A might need some rework. We might get to C and then have to go back to A. Put that in. But better still, ask the team. Teams know this. They're the ones complaining about all the rework and the hassle and the things that weren't planned for. Talk to them, ask them. It is all too easy in our professional world to forget to ask the people actually doing the work. Ask them. And that brings me on to my next point, which is about I want to get the teams, successful teams, high-performing teams, have skin in the game. Okay? They care about the numbers, they care about their commitments, and that's because you've consulted with them. It's their data. You share relentlessly. So I've just finished a 3-month piece of work where we ran EVM for just 3 months across a team of about 6 or 7 in Excel, I admit. But nonetheless, I managed to use EVM all the way through and talk to the team so that if there was any delay or slip, they could see the consequence it would have. So the whole team acted as one. Okay? I was not a remote planner. I wasn't managing a schedule that they couldn't see. It was all completely open. And to do that, if you can invert the org chart, have you ever seen a tree grow down out of the sky? Yeah? No, you haven't. Okay? But somehow our organisation charts pretend that you have the most senior people right at the top. Now, very contentious, I see them right at the bottom, because they're the foundation for what we do. And so our job as delivery professionals is to put the right stage in place so that we can build a high-performing team on top of us. Okay, so that's the approach I take when it comes to getting the team involved. And we have no blame. If something goes wrong, it's the team's job to fix it. And we look at the variations that might have caused things to go off track together. So it's a team sport. Data informs people closest to the action. They're the ones that can do something to get things back on track. So we've all heard the phrase MI, management information. Is it really? Is it team information? Is that information really for the benefit of a team or the managers? Because after all, if the managers are doing their job right, they have scoped delivery and delegated that delivery and framed it correctly so that the project team can then go deliver successfully, for which the managers should only need reporting by exception. Now, the world is changing very, very fast. I think we're going through a kind of phase change. You know how like when you boil water it turns into steam, and physicists say that's a phase change, like a sudden change of state. I think we are starting to see that tipping point now with the relentless growth of information and all the processing, all the clever stuff we can do in the connected world. It is really making a difference. And on top of that, we've got a new generation of people. I mean, maybe I'm betraying my age, but yesterday I was way in on the train and there was a guy who on his smartphone was busy organising a stag do for the weekend, and he managed to do the hotel, the flights and the taxis all on his phone in 15 minutes. And that kind of blew me away, because even I can't do that. But that's what the generation coming through and can now do. So we've got to stay on top of it. We need to make sure we provide the ways of working that tap into that. Okay? So on top of that, we also got AI. So I don't call it growth of the machines, but it's really about very, very clever statistics. But you must be careful. You must be able to understand. It must explain why it came to a conclusion. And that's a bit of a debate I'm having within the machine learning community, is that don't make it black box. So for those of you here yesterday, Martin Paver chucked up a black box image and said, do you know what's going inside? We need to make sure we understand, as the AI comes in more mainstream, that we know what it's doing. And that means our role, I think, as project control staff is changing. I think we're going to become project designers. As the systems become more automated and we work at a higher level of abstraction, we're going to have to get better at hooking all these systems up. So if you go talk to our vendors today, and they would tell you about how they're collecting data from here to there, okay, that is going to increase. And so we're going to find information flows further and faster. So as project professionals, we need to understand how it's all joined up. And we also need to exploit the data that is, as Martin again said yesterday, the exhaust plume of delivery. There's so much data, but we've got to bust open those data silos. And one of the things I try to do in the organisations I work in is to encourage the leadership teams to consider opening up the information they've got for the benefit of the other project delivery teams. Why would you sit on information? Why would you erode shareholder value? Okay, those are the questions I asked them. So we need to invest in science above all, because really it's a scientific method we are testing here. When we deliver a project, we have a hypothesis. I know how to do this piece of work. I know how much it's going to cost and how long it's going to take and who I need to do it with. And so you're kind of testing that thousands of times a day across the whole country. Okay? We have a very disciplined process is what we need. The question is, are you an observer or a leader in all of this, in this change? Do you want to watch the train go by, or do you want to get on it? Do you want to lead it and steer it? So my final slide is about what I see as the emergent culture to make all this possible. On the left-hand side are the set of skills. On the right-hand side are the attributes, the personal attributes, the will, the personal behaviours that you want of the people that you're building your business up with. So we have data science, data engineering, data-driven project design and delivery. Lean, absolutely big, massive fan of lean, because if you can pinpoint the waste, then you can get on top of the volatility in your delivery. Communication, leadership, all important. But really what we want is insight into yourself. I'm still learning about myself and my connection with this journey. I hope I demonstrate some empathy with others, and I make this an interesting talk to you all. I always believe there's a better way, always a better way. I personally really stand by anti-fragility, the idea that we can actually design our organisations and our projects and programs so they get better the more you beat them up. Isn't that a weird idea? But that's what we need to do. And then we gain the insights, we have a learning mindset, and finally we have a kind of global optimization. So we consider the wider society. So as Ed came along and spoke yesterday about climate change, we have to think of the wider requirements society expects of us as project delivery professionals, and take that into account when we design and execute our projects. So it's not just about the local good, but the global good. So in conclusion, we need to put teams and data together to hit that sweet spot where the team go home on time, safe and happy. Thank you.